Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive.
Always fun to dive in.
This time we're going to be talking about something that's pretty vital in today's digital world, and that's cloud infrastructure and managing access to it.
Big one.
We've got some super interesting articles that look at both the technical side of cloud infrastructure and also that critical security aspect of managing, who gets access to what, which is also known as cloud entitlements management.
Yes.
So given how much sensitive data businesses are putting into the cloud these days,
Right.
it's definitely something worth understanding, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And you're right. It's not just about kind of understanding the potential, but also being really aware of the risks.
For sure.
Let's face it. Security breaches, they're making headlines almost daily.
Yeah.
And so many of those could be prevented with proper cloud entitlements management.
Okay, so before we get into the really, the nitty-gritty of entitlements, let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Good idea.
I'll admit, when I hear cloud infrastructure, I kind of think of these vague servers just floating around up there.
Right.
Can you give us a more concrete picture of what it actually is?
Yeah, ditch the ethereal imagery, right?
Yeah.
I want you to imagine instead that you're maybe a CTO and you've been tasked with building a digital foundation for a rapidly expanding startup.
Okay.
You need a flexible and secure space to house all your data and your applications.
Right.
That's essentially what cloud infrastructure provides, right? It's like you're constructing a virtual office building, but instead of concrete and steel, you're using a network of servers and software and all kinds of services.
So if this virtual building is our cloud infrastructure, what are the kind of key components that we need to be aware of?
Okay, so first you've got compute resources.
Okay.
Think of these as like the workhorses, like the desks and computers where your applications actually run.
Right.
So for those who are familiar with the tech, we're talking AWS EC2,
Okay.
Azure Virtual Machines. Then you have storage,
Right.
your virtual filing cabinets for all of your data.
Okay.
And that's where services like AWS S3 or Azure Blob Storage, those come in.
So compute is where the work happens. Storage is where we keep the results.
Yes.
What else makes up this virtual building?
Okay, well, networking is super crucial, right? It's like the elevators and hallways of your virtual office building.
Okay.
It makes sure that the data flow and communication between different parts of your cloud infrastructure are running smoothly.
Makes sense.
So examples of that would be AWS VPC or the Azure Virtual Network.
Okay.
And of course, every office building, it needs a library.
Right.
And in our case, that's databases, right?
Okay.
It's where you're storing and managing all of your critical information.
Yeah.
So AWS RDS, Azure SQL Database, these are all part of that.
And we can't forget security.
Right, absolutely not.
No virtual office building is complete without a security system.
Absolutely. And that's where services like AWS IAM, Azure AD, Google Cloud IAM come in.
Okay.
Those are the security guards. They control who gets in, where they can go, what they can access in our building.
It's interesting that you mentioned those three specifically.
Right.
Do they all have, from your experience, do they all have kind of their own strengths?
They do, yes.
Or are they basically interchangeable?
So while they all kind of aim for that same goal, right, of secure access management, they do each have their own nuances.
Okay.
So for example, you've got AWS IAM is known for its granular control and extensive policy options, making it good for really complex environments.
Gotcha.
And then you have Azure AD, which integrates very tightly with Microsoft's ecosystem,
Okay.
which can be advantageous, right, if you're heavily reliant on Microsoft products.
Yeah.
And then you've got Google Cloud IAM, which has this focus on simplicity and ease of use.
Okay.
So a lot of organizations that are newer to cloud, they kind of favor that one.
That makes sense.
So we've got our virtual office building all set up.
We do.
With its various rooms and security measures.
Right.
But why is meticulously managing access, or as it's fancily called, cloud entitlements, why is it so crucial?
Well, we're talking about preventing potentially devastating data breaches.
Right.
And ensuring that you're compliant with these increasingly stringent regulations like GDPR and IPA. These aren't just kind of abstract concepts, they carry some real-world consequences. We see the fines levied against companies for failing to meet GDPR requirements.
Yeah.
They're talking millions, sometimes billions of dollars.
Wow.
So cloud entitlements management, it really helps organizations avoid these pitfalls.
It's not just about following the rules then, it's also about protecting your business from some pretty serious damage.
Exactly, precisely.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, we want to be operationally efficient, right?
Right.
So properly managed cloud entitlements can streamline our workflows.
Prevent wasted resources.
Yeah.
And just help avoid scenarios where employees have access to information they shouldn't.
Right.
I mean, think about it. Do you really want, like, your interns having access to all the company's financial records?
Right, yeah.
Or sensitive customer data?
No.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's starting to become clear why this is such a hot topic.
It is.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not just about the tech, it's about protecting your entire company's assets and reputation.
Yes.
So how do we even begin to tackle this? It's all about complicated systems and, endless lists.
I know it can seem daunting.
Yeah.
But there are key tools and practices that make this a lot more approachable.
Okay.
The first one you hear everywhere is IAM.
Okay.
Identity and Access Management.
Right.
Think of this as like your master key system for your building.
Okay, that makes sense. But simply having a key system isn't enough.
No.
How do we ensure the right people get the right keys and, more importantly, that they don't get keys they shouldn't have?
Yeah, that's where RBAC comes in.
Okay.
Role-based access control. So instead of like assigning access individually, you group people based on their roles within the organization.
Okay.
So all the accountants get access to the financial data room.
Right.
Marketing team gets access to the marketing data and tools.
Gotcha.
Streamlines the whole process.
Yeah.
And it makes sure people only have access to what they need to do their jobs.
That's a lot more efficient than trying to, give individual permissions and all that.
Really?
It's like having a system that kind of automatically sorts and distributes keys based on people's titles. But even with that, we still need something to enforce the rules.
Yeah.
To make sure people aren't sneaking into rooms they shouldn't be in.
Exactly. And that's where policy enforcement comes in, right?
Okay.
Think of it as the electronic locks on the doors.
Okay.
Ensuring only those with the correct digital keys
Yeah.
can access specific resources.
So we've got keys, we've got roles, we've got locks.
But systems can be flawed. People make mistakes.
Yes.
How do we make sure everything is running smoothly?
Regular access reviews.
Okay.
Essential. Think of it as a periodic key audit.
Okay.
You're checking if anyone has keys they no longer need.
Right.
If any locks need to be changed or if any new rooms need to be added to the system.
Right.
So it's about staying on top of it, making sure your access controls are always up to date.
So it's all about these layers of security then.
It is.
From the initial, key creation to the ongoing monitoring and adjustments.
It's a continuous process.
So what are some kind of practical tips for actually managing all this?
Okay, so one of the most important principles is, it's one you'll see repeated everywhere, is the principle of least privilege.
Okay.
POLP.
POLP. Okay.
Don't give anyone more access than they absolutely need to do their job.
Right.
So if somebody only needs to view certain data, don't give them editing permissions.
Right. It's like making sure that the janitor only has access to the supply closet,
right,
and not to the CEO's office.
That's a great analogy. It sounds like a common sense approach.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing in practice it can be tricky.
It can be, especially when you're talking about complex environments.
Right.
That's where automation comes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can use tools that help us streamline this process of granting and revoking access.
Okay.
It reduces the risk of human error.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, taking that human element out of it a little bit.
Absolutely.
But we can't just set it and forget it, right?
Well, definitely not.
We still have to be vigilant.
Constant vigilance is key. You've got to be monitoring your cloud environment for any unusual activity.
Oh.
Think like login attempts from unusual locations, access to sensitive data outside of like work hours.
Right.
Or sudden spikes in resource usage.
So we're basically playing detective in the cloud, looking for clues.
Precisely. And just like with a real building, you need to do your regular checkups.
Right.
Make those access reviews a routine part of your process. And don't forget those extra layers of security, like two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer these days.
Two-factor is like having a security guard check your ID before they let you use your key.
Exactly.
And one of the articles I was reading mentioned that there are solutions out there that can manage access across multiple cloud platforms.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Because as businesses grow, they often end up using multiple cloud providers.
Right.
maybe AWS for some things, Azure for others. Trying to manage access to all those different platforms separately can be a nightmare.
I can imagine.
So using unified solutions,
Yeah.
they can give you that single pane of glass to oversee everything.
Okay.
It makes life a lot easier for your IT and security teams.
It's like having a master key that works for all the buildings in a city, basically. So for small businesses specifically that maybe don't have, as many resources,
Right.
what are some of the key takeaways for them?
I think, especially for smaller teams,
Right.
they might not have dedicated security personnel.
Yeah.
So carefully choosing the right cloud service provider from the start is crucial.
Okay.
Whether it's AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, they all have different strengths and weaknesses
Okay.
in terms of security features and ease of management.
So do your research and pick the platform that best fits your needs.
Exactly.
What else?
Well, optimizing resource usage is essential, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be paying for virtual office space that you're not using.
Right.
So your CSPs, they offer tools that can help you monitor and control costs.
Okay.
And then you have features like auto-scaling, which can adjust your resources automatically based on demand.
It's like having a flexible lease agreement for your virtual office space.
Precisely.
What about backing up all this data?
Absolutely. Regular backups, non-negotiable.
Especially for smaller companies that maybe don't have
Yeah.
the redundancy that a large one would have.
Yeah, cloud storage solutions make this incredibly easy and affordable these days.
Right.
And then you have things like disaster recovery as a service, or DREAs,
Okay.
which can help small businesses get back up and running
Yeah.
very quickly if there's an issue like a cyber attack or a natural disaster.
So it's like having a backup generator for your office.
Exactly.
Are there other best practices we should be thinking about?
Well, network security.
Yeah.
Crucial.
Right.
You wouldn't leave the doors to your physical office unlocked.
Right.
So the same applies to your virtual office.
Makes sense.
So using tools like virtual private networks, VPNs,
Okay.
firewalls,
Yeah.
intrusion detection, or prevention systems
Right.
can strengthen your defenses significantly.
Okay.
And, of course, always make sure your systems are up to date with the latest patches.
Yeah, keep everything patched.
Yes, to fix any of those vulnerabilities.
Oh. It's like having a security guard that's always on patrol, making sure everything is locked up tight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, technology is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
The human element is just as important.
We can have the most sophisticated system in the world, but if employees aren't aware of risks,
Exactly.
then we're still vulnerable.
Absolutely. So employee training is absolutely critical.
Okay.
Make sure everyone understands the basics of cloud security,
Right.
knows how to spot a phishing scam,
Yeah.
understands the importance of strong passwords.
Okay.
I mean, creating that culture of security awareness
Yeah.
is one of the most effective ways to protect your business.
So it's not about rules, it's more about education and kind of empowering people to be more aware.
Yes, it's a team effort,
Right.
and everybody needs to be on board.
So just like with any other part of your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to review and update your security policies regularly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the threat landscape is always changing.
It's not a static thing, it's a dynamic process.
It is.
And if it feels overwhelming,
Right.
don't hesitate to reach out for help.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, there are those managed service providers who specialize in that.
Yeah, so it's like hiring a professional security firm
Yes.
for your cloud environment.
Exactly. You could focus on your core business.
Right.
Knowing your cloud environment is in good hands.
So just to kind of recap a little bit, we've covered the basics of cloud infrastructure, the importance of managing those cloud entitlements, and then some practical tips for getting started.
We have.
Right.
It is a lot of information, but I think the key takeaway is securing your cloud environment.
Yeah.
It's not as daunting as it seems.
Right.
With the right tools, the right strategies, and a bit of vigilance, you can significantly reduce your risk and protect your business.
And I think we've kind of just scratched the surface of this topic.
I think so. It's a fascinating one.
Yeah, there's still a lot to explore.
Yeah, and one area that I think is particularly exciting and potentially game-changing is this rise of decentralized identity solutions.
Okay, decentralized identity.
Yeah.
I've heard that term, but I'm not totally sure what it means.
Of course.
Can you shed some light on that?
Absolutely. So it's essentially a shift in how we think about digital identity.
Okay.
Right. Imagine a world where you control your own digital identity. You have this secure and portable digital passport, if you will, that verifies who you are and what you're allowed to access.
So instead of having, a million different usernames and passwords, we would have one central secure identity we could use everywhere.
It's like having a universal key that unlocks all the doors in your digital life.
And since it's decentralized, it's not controlled by, one company or government.
Exactly.
It's more user-centric. You're in control of your data.
Yes.
You decide what to share and who you share it with.
That's a pretty radical concept.
It is.
It's appealing.
Very much so.
And I can see how that would revolutionize not just cloud entitlements management, but the entire digital landscape.
It could, but it's still very early, right?
Oh, it's early days.
And there are still some pretty big challenges to overcome.
Yes, there are.
Like what?
Well, for starters, scalability.
Okay.
Blockchain networks, which are often used for decentralized identity, can be slow and expensive to operate.
Gotcha.
Especially when you're dealing with large numbers of transactions.
So some technical things to work out.
Yes.
And then what? Just making sure everyone's...
Well, interoperability.
Interoperability,
We want to make sure that the different decentralized identity systems can talk to each other seamlessly.
Right.
Otherwise, we're going to end up with a fragmented landscape.
Which defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly.
It's like trying to fit different keys into the same lock.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
And then you've got the whole issue of user adoption. Right? People need to understand.
And trust it.
And trust these new systems.
So we've got those technical challenges, the collaboration piece, and then getting everyone on board with the new system.
It's a complex puzzle.
But the rewards are there.
The rewards are significant.
If we can, get over those hurdles.
Could make the cloud more secure, more efficient, and more user-friendly.
Okay.
Empowering individuals and businesses alike.
So it's a potential game changer.
It is.
But it's going to take some time to get there.
It's like any emerging technology.
Yeah.
There are growing pains and unknowns.
But, the possibilities are pretty exciting.
They are exciting.
So let's shift focus a little bit back to the present.
Okay.
And talk about some of the more immediate concerns.
Sure.
Like continuous monitoring. What are some of the specific things that we should be keeping our eyes peeled for?
That's a great question, because when it comes to cloud security, being proactive is key.
Right.
We want to be able to spot those potential issues before they become major breaches.
Right. So being vigilant and looking for anything suspicious.
Precisely. So some common red flags.
Okay.
Multiple failed login attempts.
Okay.
Especially from unusual locations.
Yeah.
This could be a sign that someone's trying to, brute force their way into your account.
Right.
Another thing to watch out for is access to sensitive data outside of normal business hours.
Someone sneaking into the virtual office.
Exactly.
And then, keep an eye out for those unusual spikes in resource usage.
Yes.
Could be a sign that someone has gained access and is using your system for their own purposes.
It's like someone setting up a server farm in your basement.
Right.
Without your knowledge.
And then any changes to user permissions as well?
Absolutely. Be wary of any unexpected changes.
Yeah.
Especially if they're granted elevated privileges.
So it's like noticing that someone suddenly has a master key when they only needed access to one room.
Exactly.
But how do we realistically monitor all this activity?
Right.
Are we supposed to just be looking at logs and alerts all day?
I mean, that would be incredibly tedious and inefficient. So thankfully, there are tools that can help.
Okay, great.
Right. Your cloud providers offer a variety of security monitoring and logging tools that can track this activity in your cloud environment.
So we can leverage technology to help us be more vigilant.
Exactly. And there are also third-party solutions that specialize in what's called security information and event management.
Okay.
Or SIEM.
SIEM. Okay, I like that.
Right.
What exactly does a SIEM do?
So think of it as a central security hub.
Okay.
It collects and analyzes security data for various sources in your cloud environment.
Yeah.
Constantly looking for those patterns and anomalies.
Gotcha.
That might indicate a security threat.
So it's like a security guard that never sleeps and is always watching those cameras.
That is a great analogy.
And they don't just watch.
No. They can take action, generate alerts, trigger automated responses, and give you really valuable insights to help you strengthen your security.
Sounds like a pretty powerful tool.
It is a valuable asset.
So is having a SIEM solution essential for any organization that's, really serious about their security?
It definitely is. But it's important to remember
Yeah.
that technology is only part of the solution.
Right.
You need to have strong security policies,
Right.
strong procedures,
Okay.
and a culture of security awareness within your organization.
Because technology can only do so much.
Exactly.
Right. You need people to be aware and following best practices.
Absolutely.
So speaking of best practices,
Yes.
aside from having a good SIEM, what are some of the things we can do to improve, cloud entitlements and overall security?
Okay, well, one of the most fundamental things,
Yeah.
and one that we've touched on already, is implementing that principle of least privilege.
Right.
Make sure that users only have access to the resources
Right.
that they absolutely need to perform their jobs.
No more giving everyone the keys to the kingdom.
Exactly.
And then, make sure you're regularly reviewing and updating those permissions as well.
Absolutely, because people change roles, projects change,
Right.
and those changes should be reflected in your access control policies.
It's about adapting to changes as they happen.
Yes.
Right.
It requires ongoing attention.
And review your user accounts as well.
Regularly, yes.
Make sure there aren't any that aren't needed anymore. And the remaining accounts have the right level of access.
It's like cleaning out your key ring,
Right.
getting rid of all the keys you no longer need.
Exactly. It keeps things nice and tidy.
Yes.
And speaking of keys, we have to talk about passwords.
Yes, we do.
They are often the weakest link.
Often, yes.
We all have too many. It's tempting to use the same one,
Right.
but that's bad.
That's a recipe for disaster.
So strong passwords are essential, of course.
Of course.
But even better is MFA,
Yes. Multi-factor authentication,
multi-factor authentication.
wherever possible.
That extra layer of security, I've been seeing that more and more these days.
Absolutely. It's becoming increasingly crucial.
Yeah.
It makes it much harder for attackers to gain unauthorized access.
Right.
Even if they manage to steal a password.
So even if they get their hands on a key,
Right.
they still need that secret code to unlock the door.
You got it.
Now, we talked a little bit about automation
We did.
and how that can be helpful. How can we use automation to improve our cloud entitlements, management, and security?
Well, automation can really be a game changer in this area,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
It can help streamline those processes,
Right.
reduce the risk of human error, and just improve your overall security posture.
So less manual work and fewer mistakes.
Yes.
I like that.
And there are tools that can automate things, like
Okay, what kinds of things?
user provisioning and deprovisioning,
Okay.
access reviews.
Okay.
They can also help you enforce those security policies and detect suspicious activity.
Wow. So it really is like having a robotic security guard.
It is.
Yeah.
Always watching, never sleeps.
That's great.
And then you can't forget about the training.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, your employee training.
How important is that?
It's absolutely crucial.
God.
Make sure your team understands
Yeah.
the importance of cloud security and they know how to follow those best practices.
Okay.
Provide regular training on,
Right.
on things like password security,
Okay.
phishing scams, data protection.
So keep it engaging.
Make it engaging,
Yeah.
interactive,
Yeah.
and encourage them to report any suspicious activity.
Right.
It's better to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, definitely.
Investigate those potential issues rather than just ignoring them and hoping they'll go away.
So if you see something, say something.
Yeah.
Applies to the cloud, too.
It does.
What about staying up to date on, the latest threats? That seems like a never-ending battle.
It is a constant battle.
How do we keep up?
Well, the good news is there are plenty of resources out there that can help us stay informed.
Okay.
Subscribe to security blogs.
Right.
Follow industry experts on social media.
Yeah.
Attend security conferences and webinars.
Okay.
There is a wealth of information out there.
So just be a lifelong learner when it comes to security.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And if you need it, don't be afraid to. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of cloud entitlements management.
In part 1, we laid the groundwork, exploring the fundamentals of cloud infrastructure, the critical importance of managing access to cloud resources, and the ever-present need for robust security measures.
We also touched upon the fascinating, albeit somewhat futuristic, concept of decentralized identity.
That's right. It's an idea that really captured my imagination. The thought of having a single secure digital identity that we control and can use across platforms is incredibly appealing.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has the potential to really revolutionize how we interact with the digital world, make it more secure, efficient, and user-friendly.
So let's dive deeper into this decentralized identity rabbit hole.
Okay.
Can you paint a picture for our listeners of what a world with decentralized identity might look like?
Okay, so imagine this. You're applying for a loan.
Okay.
But instead of having to, dig up paper documents and wait weeks for verification,
Right.
you simply present your digital identity,
Okay.
which instantly confirms your credentials and your financial history.
Wow.
Or you're starting a new job.
Okay.
And onboarding is completely seamless because your digital identity already holds all the necessary information and certifications.
That sounds incredibly efficient.
It does.
No more chasing down paperwork or dealing with endless forms.
Right.
But how would this digital identity be stored and managed?
Right.
Wouldn't we still be reliant on some central authority?
That's the key difference.
Okay.
Instead of relying on that central authority,
Mm-hmm.
like a government agency or a
Right.
social media company,
Yeah.
your digital identity would be stored and managed
Okay.
on a decentralized network like a blockchain.
Ah, blockchain.
Yes.
The technology behind cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin.
Exactly.
So we're talking about a distributed ledger
yes.
that's spread across multiple computers, making it virtually impossible to hack or tamper with.
That's the beauty of it.
Okay.
With blockchain, there's no single point of failure.
Right.
So even if one part of the network goes down, your identity remains safe and secure.
Okay.
And because you control your own digital identity,
Right.
you decide what information to share and with whom.
That's pretty powerful,
Yeah.
putting individuals back in control of their data.
It is. Are there any real-world examples of this in action today?
There are definitely real-world examples starting to emerge.
Okay, good.
I mean, you see some universities
Oh.
that are already issuing digital diplomas and certificates using blockchain technology.
Okay.
This allows graduates to easily share their credentials with potential employers
Right?
who can then instantly verify their authenticity.
No more waiting weeks for those transcripts in the mail.
Exactly.
Huge time saver.
Just everybody time and hassle.
What about in the business world?
Mm-hmm.
Are any companies using this for things like cloud entitlements management?
It's still early days, but we are starting to see some interesting pilot projects.
Okay.
For instance,
Yeah.
some companies are exploring how blockchain-based identity
Okay.
could be used to streamline supply chain management.
How would that work?
So imagine a supply chain with multiple companies,
Okay.
each with their own systems and data silos.
Decentralized identity could allow these companies to securely share information
Okay.
and collaborate more efficiently
Right.
while maintaining control over their own data.
So it's about creating a trusted network where everyone can benefit from the shared information
Exactly.
without compromising security.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that's just one example. I mean, the potential applications here are vast and still being explored.
I can only imagine. But as with any emerging technology, I'm sure there are challenges to overcome.
There are.
What are some of the biggest hurdles facing the widespread adoption of this?
One of the main challenges is scalability.
Okay.
Blockchain networks, while secure, they can be slow and expensive to operate,
Yeah, I can see how that would be an issue.
especially when you're dealing with large numbers of transactions.
So there are some technical limitations that need to be addressed before this can really,
Yes,
go mainstream.
definitely.
And then there's also the question of interoperability,
Yes, very important.
making sure that the different systems can talk to each other.
Exactly. We need to make sure that different decentralized identity systems
Right.
can communicate with each other seamlessly.
Right.
Otherwise, we'll end up with a fragmented landscape,
Right.
which defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, it's like having a key that only works for certain doors.
Exactly.
Not very helpful.
Not helpful at all.
And then, of course, there's the challenge of user adoption as well.
Absolutely.
People need to understand and trust these new systems.
Yes, before they'll be willing to embrace them.
All right.
Education and awareness
Right, making sure they know what it is.
will be key.
So we've got those technical challenges, the collaboration piece,
Right.
and then getting everyone on board with the new system.
It's a journey, and it's going to take time and collaboration to fully realize the potential.
I think it's going to be a fascinating journey
It will.
to watch unfold.
Yes.
But let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Bring things back down to the present.
Good idea.
We've talked a lot about cloud entitlements management, but what are some specific steps that companies can take today to improve their security?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the good news is that there are a lot of practical things
Okay, good.
that organizations can do to strengthen their cloud security.
So let's hear it.
Okay, so first and foremost,
Yeah.
revisit that principle of least privilege.
Okay.
Make sure that users only have access to the information and resources.
Right.
They absolutely need to do their jobs.
Okay.
Regularly review and update those permissions as roles and responsibilities change.
So regular checkups, it's like going to the dentist for your cloud security.
Exactly. Don't let those things get stale.
What else?
Next, embrace the power of multi-factor authentication.
Oh, okay.
It's simple, but incredibly effective.
Right.
It adds that extra layer of protection.
Yeah, that extra code you get on your phone or email, it can be a little annoying, but it's definitely worth the hassle for that added security. Okay, and what was the other one?
Don't underestimate the importance of staying informed
Right.
about the latest threats and vulnerabilities.
Yeah, because the landscape is constantly changing.
It is. It's constantly evolving, so keeping your knowledge up to date is crucial.
So it's like getting a booster shot for your cloud security.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Keep those defenses strong.
Yes. Subscribe to those security blogs. Follow those industry experts on social media.
Yeah.
And consider attending some of those security conferences or webinars.
Okay.
I mean, there's just a wealth of information out there.
So be a lifelong learner when it comes to security.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
And of course, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Exactly. There are so many experts and service providers out there who can help you navigate these complexities.
It's like having a security consultant on call.
Exactly.
Okay.
They can help you identify your vulnerabilities,
Right.
develop that comprehensive security strategy, and implement the right tools and technologies to protect your business.
So be proactive, stay informed,
Yes.
and don't be afraid to leverage the expertise of others.
You got it.
I like it.
And remember, security isn't a destination.
Right.
It's a journey.
It's an ongoing process.
It requires ongoing attention and adaptation.
We've talked a lot about the technical aspects of cloud entitlements management,
We have.
but I want to talk about the human element as well.
Okay.
What are some things companies can do to foster a culture of security awareness among their employees?
That is such a crucial point.
Yeah.
You can have the most sophisticated security systems in place,
Right.
but if your employees aren't aware of the risks and following those best practices, you're still vulnerable.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the people using it.
Exactly.
Right.
Building a culture of security awareness starts with education.
Okay.
Provide that regular training
Okay.
on things like password security, phishing scams, social engineering, data protection.
So keep it engaging.
Make it engaging and interactive.
Yeah.
Don't just do the boring PowerPoint presentation.
Make it fun, make it memorable.
Exactly.
Okay.
And encourage your employees to report any suspicious activity.
Right.
Make it clear that they won't be penalized for reporting a potential security issue.
Yeah.
You want them to feel comfortable speaking up if something doesn't seem right.
So create a culture of trust and open communication.
Exactly.
And then lead by example as well, right?
Absolutely. If your leadership team takes security seriously and follows those best practices,
Right.
it sets the tone for the entire organization.
So walk the walk, don't just talk the talk.
Precisely. Security is everybody's responsibility,
Right.
from the CEO to the intern.
We got to work together
We do.
to create that more secure digital world.
Absolutely.
We talked about choosing the right cloud service provider
You did?
or CSP earlier. Can you elaborate on that a bit? What are some key factors to consider when making this decision?
That's a crucial decision.
This
Shouldn't be taken lightly.
Right.
There are many factors to consider, and the right choice depends on your specific needs and requirements.
For sure.
But let's highlight a few key areas.
Yeah, let's do it.
First,
Yeah.
consider the security features
Okay.
and certifications offered by each CSP.
Okay.
Look for providers that have that strong track record of security and compliance.
Okay.
Ask about their data encryption practices, their access control mechanisms,
Right.
and their incident response capabilities.
So we're looking for a CSP that really takes security seriously.
Yes.
And has the credentials to back it up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Next, think about that level of control and flexibility that you need.
Okay.
Some CSPs offer more granular control
Okay.
over your cloud environment than others.
Right.
If you have specific security requirements or compliance obligations, you're going to need to choose a provider that meets those.
So finding that right balance between ease of use and customization. And then cost is a factor as well, right?
Of course. I mean, cloud services can be priced in a variety of ways.
Right.
So comparing those pricing models, understanding what you'll be paying for is really important.
So it's not just about finding the cheapest option, it's about finding the best value.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then consider the level of support that you'll need.
Okay.
Some CSPs offer more comprehensive support than others.
If you don't have, a big IT team.
Right. If you don't have a large IT team, you might want to choose a provider that can really provide that assistance.
It's like having a lifeline in case something goes wrong.
Exactly.
Choosing the right CSP is a crucial decision.
It is.
It can really impact your security and your success in the cloud.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything we set out to discuss.
I think so, too.
We've explored, the foundations of cloud infrastructure, delved into access control, and even glimpsed into the future of cloud entitlements management.
It's been a fascinating discussion.
It really has.
And I hope our listeners are feeling more informed and empowered.
Me too.
To navigate this ever-evolving world.
But before we say goodbye, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
We've talked a lot about the technical aspects of cloud security.
Yes.
But I think it's really important to remember that security is ultimately about people.
Absolutely. Technology is a powerful tool, but it's only as effective as the people using it.
We need to foster that culture of security awareness, empower our employees to be vigilant, and just make security an integral part of our organizational DNA.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's a shared responsibility, and we all play a role in creating a more secure digital world.
So to our listeners, continue exploring this fascinating topic.
Yes.
Stay curious.
Stay informed.
Stay informed and stay secure in the cloud.
Great advice.
And remember, security is not a destination, it's a journey.
Keep learning, keep adapting, and never stop striving to improve.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into cloud entitlements management.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, happy computing. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into cloud entitlements management.
We've covered a lot of ground, from those nuts and bolts of cloud infrastructure to the potential of decentralized identity and the critical role of continuous monitoring.
It's been quite the journey.
It has.
And I think our listeners are really starting to get a grasp on this complex but incredibly important topic.
But, as we've emphasized throughout this whole deep dive, cloud security isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process.
It's about adapting and evolving to stay ahead of the game.
Exactly, that ever-changing threat landscape.
And one of the best ways to learn and improve is to look at real-world examples of companies that are successfully navigating these challenges.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Case studies are a great way to see these concepts in action.
Do you have any examples that come to mind?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are many companies doing impressive work in this area.
I bet.
But one that stands out is a financial services firm that was facing a really common challenge: managing user access across a complex hybrid cloud environment.
Hybrid cloud, meaning they were using a mix of on-premises infrastructure and cloud services.
Exactly. They had a sprawling IT landscape with data and applications just scattered across various systems.
Oh, wow.
Which made it incredibly difficult to control access and enforce consistent security policies.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It was.
I can only imagine what their IT and security teams were dealing with.
They were relying heavily on manual processes, which were, as you can imagine, not only time-consuming, but also prone to human error.
So they were basically trying to herd cats, but the cats were digital data?
That's a great analogy.
And the herders were overwhelmed IT professionals.
Exactly.
So what did they do?
Well, they realized they needed a more automated and centralized approach to managing user access.
Okay.
So what they did was they implemented a cloud entitlements management platform that integrated with their existing identity and access management systems.
Okay.
This gave them a unified view of all user permissions across their entire IT environment.
So it's like getting a master key that unlocked all the doors in their digital kingdom.
Exactly. And they were then able to define really granular access policies based on roles and responsibilities, ensuring that users only had access to the information information and resources they needed to do their jobs.
So no more accidental key swapping or unauthorized access to sensitive data?
Right. And because the platform was automated, they could streamline their access review processes, which reduced the time and effort required to ensure compliance.
So they were able to trade in their cat herding whips for a more efficient and reliable system.
Precisely. This freed up their IT team to focus on more strategic initiatives while also significantly improving their security posture.
That's a fantastic example of how cloud entitlements management can not only enhance security, but also improve operational efficiency.
Absolutely. And it illustrates the importance of having those right tools and strategies in place.
Okay. Are there any other examples that highlight key takeaways for our listeners?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Another interesting case is a healthcare organization that was struggling to meet the stringent compliance requirements of HIPAA.
HIPAA, that's all about protecting patient privacy and ensuring the security of sensitive medical information, right?
Exactly. And in healthcare, those stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Data breaches can have devastating consequences.
Right.
Not only for the organization, but also for those patients whose information is compromised.
So they needed to make sure their security was top-notch.
Absolutely. Ironclad.
What do they do differently?
Well, they realized their existing security measures just weren't up to par.
Okay.
They needed a more comprehensive approach to managing user access. So they implemented a solution that combined role-based access control with attribute-based access control.
Okay, we talked about role-based access control, but what's attribute-based?
So it's also known as ABA.
Okay.
And it's a more fine-grained approach to access control. Okay. Instead of just assigning permissions based on roles, ABEC takes into account additional attributes.
Okay. Like what?
Like the user's location.
Okay.
The device they're using. Or the sensitivity of the data being accessed.
So it's like having a security system that knows not only who you are, but where you are, what device you're using, and what you're trying to access.
Precisely.
Okay, that's pretty impressive.
It is. And it allowed the healthcare organization to enforce these more granular access policies.
Okay.
Ensuring only authorized personnel could access that sensitive patient data.
So it's like having multiple layers of security checks, making it that much harder for unauthorized users to slip through.
Precisely. And they were also able to automate their access review processes.
Okay.
Which made it much easier to demonstrate compliance with HIPAA regulations.
So they improved security and simplified their compliance efforts.
Exactly. And they gained valuable insights into user activity.
Okay.
Which allowed them to proactively identify and address potential security risks.
Sounds like a win-win all around.
It was. They improved their security posture, streamlined their compliance, and gained those valuable insights into user activity, all thanks to a well-implemented cloud entitlements management strategy.
Those are two really compelling examples. I'm starting to see how cloud entitlements management isn't just about checking boxes.
Right.
It's about creating a more secure and efficient digital environment.
It's about empowering organizations to leverage the power of the cloud while minimizing the risks.
So what are some key takeaways from these case studies that our listeners can apply to their own organizations?
I'd say a few key lessons. Don't underestimate automation. Manual processes are time-consuming and prone to human error. Automate wherever possible. Streamline operations and improve security.
So automate those tedious tasks and free up your IT team for the important stuff.
Exactly. Embrace the principle of least privilege. Only grant users the access they need to do their jobs.
It's like locking down your virtual office building, making sure only authorized personnel have access to specific areas.
Precisely.
Okay, and the third one?
Don't be afraid to ask for help from experts.
Reach out.
Yeah, there are so many experienced professionals and service providers out there who can help you navigate the complexities.
It's like having a trusted advisor to guide you through it all.
Exactly.
Okay, now before we wrap up, I want to touch on some emerging trends in cloud entitlements management. What's on the horizon in this rapidly evolving field?
That's a great question. As the cloud landscape evolves, so too do the challenges and opportunities in cloud entitlements management.
Okay, so what are we looking at?
One trend that's gaining traction is the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, or AM.
Okay, yes, AI.
To automate those security tasks and enhance threat detection.
So using the power of AI to bolster our security.
Exactly. AML algorithms can analyze vast amounts of data to identify patterns and anomalies that might indicate a security breach.
It's like having a digital security guard that's always learning and adapting to new threats.
Precisely.
What else?
Another trend to watch is the increasing adoption of zero-trust security models.
Zero trust? That sounds pretty intense.
It does, right?
Yeah.
So it's a security framework that assumes that no user or device can be trusted by default.
Okay.
Even those within the organization's network.
So it's like a security system that's constantly verifying every user and every device, even the ones that have already been granted access before.
Zero trust requires continuous verification and authorization, making it much harder for attackers to gain a foothold, even if they manage to breach those perimeter defenses.
It sounds like a much more proactive and robust approach to security.
It is, and it aligns well with the dynamic and distributed nature of cloud environments.
Those are some fascinating trends, it seems like. The future of cloud entitlements management is headed towards a more automated, intelligent, and proactive approach to security.
I agree, and it's an exciting time to be involved in this field.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything we set out to discuss.
I think so.
In this deep dive.
Yeah.
We explored, the foundations of cloud infrastructure.
We did it.
Delved into the intricacies of access control.
Yes.
And even took a peek into the future of cloud entitlements management.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope our listeners have found it informative and engaging.
Me too. But before we say goodbye, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the technical aspects of cloud security. But it's important to remember that security is ultimately about people.
That's such a crucial point. Technology is a powerful tool.
Right.
But it's only as effective as the people using it.
We need to foster a culture of security awareness.
Yes.
Empower our employees to be vigilant.
Absolutely.
And make security part of our organizational DNA.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's a shared responsibility.
It is.
And we all have a role to play in creating a more secure digital world.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring this topic, stay curious, stay informed, stay secure, and stay secure in the cloud.
Well said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into cloud entitlements management.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, happy computing.